should think that's the nuts lineup, dude.
We are live. Welcome to Ballers and Briefs, Week 6 NFL recap and the Week 7 Thursday night football showdown preview. I can't be more happy this week than what I am because my Texans beat Phil Saints. Look at that shit right there, everybody. Perfection.
I'll advertise my girl's art. That's pretty fire. Freehand draw. And Cody's team only won because my kicker missed 2 field goals. If not, they got shit on. So
my team won because your coach makes bad decisions. Your coach makes bad decisions.
No, we missed 2 field goals, and we forced to go for touchdowns in the red zone because we were down by 7 instead of 1. Had our teammate made those field goals. Oh, I'm gonna blame it on our kicker. And y'all suck, and you got lucky.
It's all right. It's okay. It's all right.
We wouldn't have had to score a touchdown in the red zone. It would have been a field goal, and we would have won. But he missed 2 field goals prior, so we were down by 7 instead of 1. Or if not, if we're in the red zone, we went for it on 4th down twice because he couldn't trust our kicker. We missed 2 field goals. I mean, that's what it all boils down to. Y'all got lucky. Y'all got fed a bone. I followed the bet. Be happy. Got lucky. Y'all tough.
It's all right. It's okay. Well, at least you get a chance for redemption. You get your Saints get to go against Brad's Jags on Thursday night.
Yeah. We'll get into that too, Saints Nation. And this is the throwback Jimmy Graham, which is applicable because he's back on the team. So he might be a threat punt play for the Millie Maker. Yeah. You never know. So, old Jimmy G.
More to come on Saints and Jags. So we wanted to give you guys a little more recap than what we've been doing in the past. We wanted to recap the Millie Maker lineup. We had a couple people ask us, hey, can you go over the Millie Maker lineup, why the Millie Maker lineup did what it did? And so we're going to get to that. And then we also kind of wanted to Brad is number 1 seed in 12-man PPR right now. My man is out here wheeling and dealing, making great plays and doing great things. So, Brad, all the props to you right now. I've actually won the top score in the 12-man 2 weeks in a row, though. So I have to give myself some props. I went from the 0-4 dumpster fire to I am now 2-4. So hopefully my stock's on the rise. Yes. So we're
this is a good weekend overall. My alma mater, Colgate didn't have a game, but Jags got me the W. I like the Florida Gators. I like to root for them a lot. They got the W. So that was definitely nice. And then I also got W's in both the 10-man and my 12-man season-long league. As Cody knows, it's definitely been a lot of wheeling and dealing for me. In my 12-man more than the 10-man just due to wanting to try to maximize points. The name of the game, I have definitely a deficiency in the running back position that requires a little bit more effort kind of week to week, trying to find the sort of a running back to fit into that slot there. In addition to the fact of, as I've stated in the previous weeks, looking for the best defensive matchup, best kicker matchup, again, to try to go ahead and maximize those points. I think as Cody said, he got the number 1, I believe. I became second in that weekly point total as well. So in both leagues, we're again able to get the W. But again, it's if you're looking for running backs or receivers, again, please keep working that waiver wire. Look at sort of the trajectory. Look at various different things. Listen to what we're saying here, so that we can get you right for this week, and get you to the number one spot. Or even in my other league, I believe I'm right outside number one. So again, we can get you there too if you just follow the wisdom of the show.
Facts. Cody's lagging. It looks like I won't even hear
Heavy
him.
bye week this week.
There we go. Bye week this week.
Heavy bye weeks. Yeah, definitely some talent out.
I think Cody having technical
and the whole thing,
Cody
sometimes we say get different even in DFS. Right now, getting different. So what are we saying is like, yes, heavy bye weeks in our strategy of getting different even for DFS. Right now, getting getting different in season long fantasy is working right now. So
you can see this winning lineup on my screen, Brad.
Oh, not the.
So
not
I
the
guess
lineup.
we can move into the Millie Maker review.
There it is.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is the winning lineup for the Millie Maker on Sunday's main slate. We've got some requests to kind of run through, our outtakes on and our input on how somebody may or may not have got to this lineup. If you recall, I definitely called.
The lag is real right now.
I definitely called the Washington Atlanta game as being a game to focus for DFS. Brad and Cody confirmed that as well. It had high potential output. I did not personally get to Ritter. I got to Sam Howell. The reason I didn't go Ritter is because I played him the week before and he shit the bed, and I was like, I'm not playing him again. So props to this guy. But you can see he was drafted 4%, which means he was getting different. Something we talk about constantly on here is getting different. We definitely looked into this game not being one that was high owned. This quarterback in particular not being high owned. And we always talk about game stacks or team stacks. We talk about bringing back a receiver with one or two of their playmakers. In this case, you can see he brought it back with London, who we called as a DFS play. He also brought it back with Kyle Pitts. I personally didn't get to Kyle Pitts neither, but it wasn't necessarily a bad play. I think Brad and Cody have talked about him being a viable option as well. And then he just ran it with two running back studs that have been studs all season long. He ate the chalk with Raheem Mostert. That's what we call eating the chalk. 54% owned, but it was chalk you had to eat in order to get to this nut lineup. So sometimes you have to play the high-owned players, the high-value players, because they're going to get you that price per dollar, and they're going to be necessary in your lineup. Ran it back with them. Now, me and Cody had a discussion prior, to starting about stuff in here. Don't know how much money this guy spent on his lineup, but I do know that Tyreek Hill was only like $300 more than Cooper Kupp, and he had 0.5 more points than Cooper Kupp. If it was viable to get Tyreek Hill in, I would have done it personally because I don't like to stack like two players from the same team if I'm not putting their quarterback in. And as you can see, he already had Kyron Williams in. So I definitely would have went Tyreek Hill. If it wasn't possible, I would have definitely assorted to Kupp. I played a lot of Kupp over this past weekend simply because his game one back and looked like he was, getting readjusted, and Puka was still the main focus. But I knew that was going to, come back around to Kupp being the number one, which he was in this state. I personally talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown being a good play this week because of his ownership. Brad specifically mentioned this game had sneaky potential for a shootout. I think it was a game he was looking at stacking, and we all agreed that it was good potential, especially because you'll never get Amon-Ra St. Brown at sub 5% ownership. You got to take a chance with that. Raheed Shaheed, you could tell that was his punt play, 1.3% owned. He nailed it right on the dot. My punt play was Curtis Samuel. So, in this situation, I would have ran Samuel back. Samuel did, just about get the same value as Raheed Shaheed. Raheed Shaheed had 18 points, but he cost like 4,700, whereas Curtis Samuel was like 3,700 and he got 14 points. So the price per value came out to like 3.9 for Shaheed and 3.7 for Curtis Samuel. If you would have played Curtis Samuel here, you wouldn't have won the milli, but you would have also had 900, salary left over to upgrade another spot. If anybody in those price range could have been upgraded, like Cooper Kupp could have been upgraded for 0.5 more points to Tyreek Hill with that money left over, could have went somewhere else. I know Drake London might have been the highest scorer for that price, but there was also a very cheap player down there that definitely outscored him, and it was we were talking about it earlier. Outscored him by a good amount. I think he was like 1,100 more though, so it's tough. Adam Thielen, that's who it was. So if you had the money, you could have got the Thielen, who scored actually 7 more points than London. Brad definitely called Thielen, but to be honest, this lineup won the nuts, the number one spot. But it could be that these are the highest scoring players for the salary made, but not always. Sometimes you'll see somebody win $1 million, but the lineup could have had more points. For example, there's like week 4 where Mostert and A-Chain both went off. The Million Maker lineup did not have A-Chain in it, but it could have, and it would have been a much higher scoring lineup. So it's the nuts for purposes of being the number one lineup in the Million Maker, but it's not the nuts in the sense that this was the highest possible.
Could have win.
And then he brought it back with a contrarian Vikings play, very low owned. We talked about that being one of the games to stack. Chicago versus Minnesota. Everybody was
then who? Who did
Fields.
Yes.
I was big on Fields myself. I was expecting him to have a big play potential in this game. Minnesota having a fast-paced passing game, but this person went contrarian, went with the opposite in hopes that wouldn't work, and it paid off tremendously. This was the number one scoring defense. So he got different with the defense. He got different with the quarterback, different with a top wide receiver that we did call on this show, and his pump play connected. So you get all that right, and it wins you $1 million. I don't know how many lineups this guy entered. Maybe this is what that 32 means. Maybe he entered 32 lineups, not sure. But he smacked it on the dot with this one. Brad, you got any input on, some of these plays and things we talked about?
Well, what is just interesting just is the draft percentage there, Phil. Is that the percentage of ownership? Is that the ownership column there in the with the draft percentage that represents? That was what I think is the most interesting part about this whole, is that he was able to get his hands on a lot of players that weren't heavily owned, and that's what we talk about. But as far as for getting different, this is that perfect scenario of getting different as far as for not going to the grain players that you'll kind of see week in, week out. If you look at this list, normally you would think, oh, well, these players aren't necessarily the stars of the NFL, but it goes to show you that you don't necessarily have to pick the stars in the NFL. You have to play the game the way it's supposed to be played, the fantasy game the way it's supposed to be played. Amon-Ra St. Brown is always that go-to. I think he's the PPR king. I mean, he gets so many targets. He's almost like Cooper Kupp but not necessarily a poor man's, but just a tier under. But when you have two of those type of players, that's going to potentially lead you to a really good game. And hitting that punt play, I know that I believe you said if you didn't go Rashid, I believe there was another player as well. Did you say Curtis Samuel?
Yeah, I don't think
or the
Curtis Samuel scored. Yeah, he scored 4 points less, but when it comes to price value, the value was literally a 0.02 difference between him and Raheed Shaheed. So you would have had additional money left over to upgrade another spot. Now, whether or not that is enough to upgrade London to Thielen is a different question. There's $1,100 difference in them. That would have saved you $900. If this lineup already had some money left over, $200, you could have upgraded London to Thielen and smacked it. You would have been so far ahead of the guy in second. It's unreal.
And I know that I've been calling Thielen the last couple of weeks, and he has actually been paying off really well. And I think another thing is interesting too is to go with the Vikings play. You know, I wonder sort of if we could have that person on and kind of speak to them, that would be sort of the biggest question on this one. Is sort of what kind of triggered the Vikings play? Was that just sort of, you know, what you had left? You know, what kind of inspired that play? Because, you know, I didn't necessarily see that performance kind of coming into the week.
Correct. I think that was more of a what we say all the time, let's get different. Like I said, everybody was on Fields because he was showing that he was the Fields last year, these last 2 weeks, and he was popping off. So I think he was more along the lines like, I don't see that happening. And if I want to get different, the way to get different is to fade Fields. And if I fade Fields, what do I need to happen? I need Fields to not produce, and that means Minnesota's defense is doing good. So, like I say it sometimes, it's easier to root for something not to happen than to root for something to happen and know that everybody else is doing it. So everybody else was on Fields. It was easier for him to just hope the Vikings defense pulls through. And if they don't, it was a shot at the millie, right? It was a lottery ticket, and it worked. It paid out. My man's $1 million richer.
And then also on the London play, I believe we had someone reach out to us and ask us who should he play. I believe that was what brought up the London last week, and we said, hey, you know, I think it was a 3-person option, and we said, hey, go with London in that instance because we believe that
looking at the target share right now. Available.
Yeah. I think Cody may be lagging again.
Yeah, he's super lagged out. He's super delayed. We're going to have to speak for him. I think it happened when I shared my screen, so hopefully he can still see the lineup. I'll stop sharing my screen. Maybe he comes back to earth. But, yeah, I mean, it's a solid lineup. The guy got different. I would have never got the Ritter. I was on Sam Howell. Same game, but, like, that's how, you know, close we were, essentially. Like, I was on this game. It was one of the first games I talked about that not many people were on. It had sneaky potential to be a shootout. It was a shootout, and you know, I think Howell had an impressive game too. I wonder if he could have been put in here. I don't know. There's numbers everywhere.
Question, Phil. Do you know if the percentage or the points that he had, sort of what was the difference in points between him and the second place by chance?
I have no idea what second place got. I wish I could check.
Because I just wanted to sort of see that to know sort of how his ability to get different as far as for the draft percentage and sort of the players he chose, how his got different. And I just helped to separate the points between 1 and 2, because I wonder, did number 2 go with a little bit more of the stars that you would theoretically go with every time? Or in that instance, did he you know, again, just kind of take advantage of the moment a little bit?
I'll say usually they're very close. Usually they're fractions of a point, and it's kind of
that's what I was thinking.
Second place gets like 100,000, and first place gets 1 million. It's a significant difference, and you'll look at their lineups, and it's usually like 0.10 difference. So like second might have had 226.28 here. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking probably as well.
Somebody else like Samuel, he would have been 4 points different. But if he allocated that money somewhere else, like the London or, you know, Cooper Kupp being Tyreek Hill, he would have got some of them points back and ultimately could have passed this guy. So there's different ways to play with the numbers and see who would have got who. But I did just look, and Sam Howell cost more than Ritter and got less points for him. So Ritter was the go-to play when it came to points per dollar. It was definitely,
and what was the price on Ritter again?
Ritter was only 5,000, and he got you, you know, 4x the value.
Yeah. Okay. So
over 4x the value. So you know, somebody like.
So then you could have moved that money to someone else.
Correct.
Got heavy on Kupp and got heavy on Amon Ra. You went light on quarterback. Okay, I see how you did it. I see.
Correct. Go ahead, Cody.
Hopefully Cody.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if y'all can hear me now, but I don't know what the hell's going on. It's just like super laggy right now. But I did do the math on when Phil had the lineup up. He did not use all $50,000. Used $49,600. So he did have.
He had enough for Thielen.
400. He had it. From what I was looking at, it didn't look like it. I mean, maybe the numbers.
If he played Samuel, No, if he played Samuel, he had enough to make London Thielen.
How much was Samuel?
Samuel had 4 less points, but Thielen would have got him 7 more. So he would have ended up with 3 more.
He had enough to upgrade Cooper Kupp to Tyreek without having to move anybody around. I did see that.
Correct, but he could have surpassed even that by keeping Kupp and just making London Thielen and Saeed Samuel. He would have ended up with more points. He also had gained 7 from London.
He had enough to upgrade Kyle Pitts to Dalton Schultz, who was the top scoring. It was only $100 difference. So to upgrade
and higher for sure. So you could have afforded if he only spent that much, you could have afforded Thielen with Samuel and upgraded to Schultz, and you would have probably been like 15 points higher than this lineup and smoked it. And actually, it would have made more sense to have Samuel in this lineup than Shaheed because he's a bring back from the opposing team. So it would have been a game stack where he stacked 2 of his players with his quarterback and brought 1 back from the opposing team, meaning he wants every aspect of that game that's scoring, and Samuel was a big part of that aspect. I would have went to Samuel and tried to allocate my money somewhere else. But like I said, I would have never got the Ritter because it would have prior week.
The number you're talking about for Samuel, what was the number that you're saying? Because the number that I'm seeing in the lineups for 3,700, so it was apples to apples with Shaheed.
No, Shaheed was. I mean, that's saying 3,700 there, but I saw 4,700. Let me make sure, because I do see on that screen what it's saying.
I just want to, because I looked in the player pool from last Sunday, and they were on the same bracket. That's what it looked like to me.
Well, at least it does fit, though. I think we were saying.
But you do have that freedom to move tight ends around, upgrade your tight end obviously for $100 more to get 2 or 1.8 more points from Pitts to Schultz. But what's funny is the top 3 tight ends, 2 of them are Atlanta Falcons. So Pitts and Jonnu Smith were only separated by 0.7 points.
So if I go into DraftKings and I try to pick Shaheed for tomorrow and I look at his game log history, it says that he was 4,600 in week 6. So you can go to like Showdown Captain mode, click on him, like you're gonna click on a lineup, go to add somebody to the lineup, lineup.
I agree. I'm just looking at him. I'm looking at him in the 20. I'm looking at him in the 26.
Up there on the screen, it says he was 37. Max.
In the 20 max I did on Sunday, I'm just looking at him from there because I didn't play in the Millie Maker. But in the 20 max I did on Sunday, he's showing us 3,700. So,
well, I don't know. If he was 3,700, you couldn't have got different with Samuel there and made the money because he would have clearly blew out his value. But you definitely could have played Samuel there, lost your 4 points from Saeed in the difference, you could have played Thielen and gained 7 more points. 3 points ahead.
Yeah.
Would have been options. But, it's hard to play with these numbers, especially when they're showing up different with all of us. Just know, some key takeaways from here are sometimes you have to eat the chalk and sometimes you have to fade the chalk. He ate the chalk with Mostert. It paid off. He, faded the chalk.
I feel like that Dolphins running back room is going to be chalk
every week. I mean, we called it. We said Carolina was feasting to the running backs. Mostert's been killing every team on the ground. And, I had a whole bunch of Mostert. So I ate that chalk too.
I had a lot of Mostert and a lot of Pitts too.
I didn't have much Pitts, but
I had him in cash.
Sometimes you have to eat the chalk.
Yeah, he was cash.
Determining whether you need to eat the chalk or not, that's a different situation. I mean, if somebody's absolutely beasting every single week and they have a favorable matchup, I guess you can say eat the chalk. But you can't eat the chalk everywhere. You got to pick a spot like he did, and then he got different everywhere else. And I mean, I remember calling Amon-Ra St. Brown, sub 5% ownership. You'll never see that.
Yeah.
This guy played him, paid out.
So I was thinking maybe you could have got different with, or you could have paired that Amon-Ra with maybe Jared Goff, but with that money that he had, but he didn't have enough money to upgrade from Ritter to Jared Goff, which if he did, he would have been way yonder out there ahead because of what Goff did versus what Ritter did.
And I think Brad called that too.
Yeah, Jared Goff was one of my starting picks last week. I really thought that matchup against Tampa Bay was going to be favorable for him.
At 27 points?
Yeah, 353 and 2 touchdowns. Definitely a strong performance. And even just from a fantasy perspective, if you looked at his log, you could see that he's gotten double-digit fantasy points, I believe, in every game. He hasn't even had sort of one of those Lamar Jackson-esque games where he only gets you 6 points or something like that. So
actually, he had 25 points, but he was the number one quarterback last week.
Yeah,
so.
Yes, definitely. And he wasn't over-owned at all. Like his ownership total wasn't super high up there.
The difference is he cost 6,400, so 1,400 more than Ritter.
Points. Yes,
and he only scored 3 more points than him. So that's where your price per dollar doesn't add up because you wouldn't, like you said, wouldn't have been able to afford Amon-Ra. You wouldn't have had enough money. So,
which probably would have. How many points did Amon-Ra or fantasy points did Amon-Ra end up?
33.4.
So he picked the right lion, So as far as for that's concerned, he saw that matchup, liked it, and just went with the receiver instead of the quarterback, which ended up working out for him.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Just keep that in mind moving forward. That's getting different.
A lot of people like myself are on the Monty train, so.
That's a classic get different.
Yeah, Monty went out. All right, we can move into my team banging the Jaguars up tomorrow. Hopefully we're making field goals. I don't know if I want to bet now that this it killed me, but I think we got some interesting takes to help everybody get a good edge on the field tomorrow for this game.
Biggest question mark. Boop.
So on the local radio, they stated that quietly that Trevor Lawrence may be suffering from a low-grade MCL sprain.
Yeah, some knee problems.
To the tackle that happened at the end of the game and the close game. So if that is the case for everyone out there, please keep that in consideration. I mean, immediate get different plays, you might have to try to throw out a lineup with CJ Beathard in it and see what happens. Just for the simple fact that all it may take tomorrow is just one tackle. And that may be Trevor Lawrence. Get heavy with ETN, maybe even get different with a Bixby on the back end.
I think
because I think they're going to try to run it and just hope that that's going to get them through on this short week. Come back next week after the sort of mini bye and get right.
Correct. You definitely need to follow that T-Law knee injury. Need to follow the Jamal Williams injury and see if he's coming in because that nerfs, Kamara's output.
I don't necessarily think it does.
As of right now, Zay Jones and Juwan Johnson are out. So Zay Jones boosts Ridley and Kirk, and Juwan Johnson boosts Taysom Hill. So, and Taysom Hill is that guy that always scores in primetime games, whether it's him as a running back, him as a quarterback, or him as a tight end. So definitely make sure you're getting exposure to him.
And on your defense, go ahead. Oh, so go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
I was going to say, coming back on the defensive side, Tyson Campbell, the Jaguars' #1 cornerback, I believe will be out also tomorrow with I believe it's a hamstring injury. He's by and far away the best cornerback. Darius Williams struggles sometimes on the a little bit. He plays better on the outside than the inside. He's played better the last couple of weeks, but he's now going to have to move over to the #1. So definitely Olave, Rashid, as you kind of move through those lineups, those are the type of players that could potentially have a pretty good game against a defense that's kind of hurting a little bit from the injury side.
I did notice that on speaking on Saints side of the defensive the ball, Demario Davis is questionable with an ankle. Lonnie Johnson, one of the corners or safety, for the hammy. Tyrann Mathieu with a foot injury. So pay attention to those specific things for if you decide to run out of defense tomorrow night as a DFS play. And then I know a lot of people are trying to ride that Saints defense in season-long fantasy to
because
victory.
T-Law's injured, so
I mean
you
that's
kind
going
of have
to
a
be.
way.
I don't see that. I don't see that tomorrow. I would be careful with the defensive play. I actually have a strong Ingram play here. I think this might be that game for him. With Demario Davis out, he's going to get some favorable matchups that I believe he can win, given the reduction in the linebacker play. So again, strong Ingram, strong ETN plays.
I'm on board as well with strong ETN, strong Ingram plays tomorrow. Saints rush defense has been slightly below average this year, but Ingram is like Kamara. They get a lot of their upside from the passing work, a lot of dump offs, and in DraftKings, you're getting a point for every time they catch that ball. So they have a lot more upside, working with them going forward. Ingram, has been a stud for them the past weeks. He's looking real good. He's got a favorable matchup as well. You're going to have Lattimore.
Dalton Schultz scored against you guys last week. And so I believe it's showing that you're susceptible to those tight end type routes.
Lattimore's locking down the outside coverage, whether that's going to be Ridley or Kirk. He's going to lock one of them down, and that's the same thing that just happened with Houston. They're going to be forced
to the other side of the ball, to the other side of the. I mean,
tight end.
I did see that.
Do you like Kamara here? Yep. I'm sorry, Cody.
No, I was just saying, like talking about Lattimore. Lattimore against the Texans did not look like Lattimore that I'm used to watching. I did feel like he kind of fell off. Now the other corner, Adebo, he looked just totally like WTF out there. So, and what was surprising to me, Phil just alluded to it, that the rush defense was just not. It just wasn't up to snuff like what I expected the defense to be playing like. I mean, they did make some good plays on like run type blitzes with like Granderson would get in the backfield and stop Dame. But when Dame wasn't in, Singletary was in there, and he was just like, and Mike Boone, both of them dudes were just pushing the ball down the field. It was weird. And then that would leave Nico open off the side, or then Dalton Schultz just decided, okay, I'm tired of being in the dumpster for now. I'm going to go back to being Dalton Schultz that I was in Dallas and catch a touchdown every game, and he's done it for 3 straight games. So I do think Ingram is a good play, but like and where you're going with this ETN, I think the ETN is probably smart too.
So to answer your question about Kamara, Jags defense is solid as fuck against the run. I think they're one of the top defenses against the run in the league. But Kamara, like I said, is a pass catching back. Plus, he's been getting around like 25 touches a game. But if Jamal Williams comes back, it's going to decrease some of them touches. But I don't think it decreases his passing game work. But it's just at his price point, it's probably not worth it to roster him as a captain. I think you definitely want some exposure to him in the flex. It's Alvin Kamara. He could do anything. But Jamal Williams coming back could potentially hurt him. Not saying it does. It could hurt him for vulturing touchdowns. There's always the Taysom Hill vulturing his touchdowns. You never know with Kamara anymore. So it's best to not go heavy on him. Just try to stay around field, maybe like 20-30% exposure in the flex. But I'm not rostering him in the captain. It's not going to happen. I mean, there's some edges here that I think are higher focus. And I think you nailed it with ETN, and I think the other one is going to be Olave. Olave's been the captain 17% of the Saints showdowns. ETN's been the captain 16% of the Jags showdowns, and they've both been in the flex. Olave 39% in the flex, which is a huge number. So your lineups where he's not your captain, definitely want him in the flex, and then ETN 28% of the time in the flex. Whereas somebody like Calvin Ridley, he's only been in the captain spot 4% of the time in his career and 0% of the time with the Jags. So I think he's going to be covered by Lattimore. So I think it's an easy edge to avoid Calvin Ridley in the captain spot. Same with Trevor Lawrence. He's only been the captain 4% of the time in Jacksonville showdowns. Plus he's got the knee injury. don't know what that's looking like, how that's going to be. I don't think Saints defense is weak by any means neither. So this could be a slower pace game, more of a field goal type game, defensive maybe. But, I think I'm going to have more ownership to kickers, running backs. I love the ETN play. I think, he has a high chance at being the captain here. And then having Evan Ingram in the flex as well is a must. He was 24% of the time in the flex and 8% of the time in the captain. So he's not even out of the question for captain. If you want to get different, you can go there. But I can tell you now, as of right now, no ownerships are extremely high on any one player. They're all ranging from like 5 to 9%. There's no one at – usually you see someone at like 20%, 23% on these showdowns. Nope. I think you can get different everywhere across this board, no matter who you like, who
it's
you
crazy
pick.
When you see Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's price point is higher than Evan Ingram. That's just crazy to me. Evan Ingram is top 5 tight end in the league right now statistically.
I think it's his touchdown upside.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
I don't think Hill has gotten even. Has he gotten a catch this? Phil, has he gotten a catch this year?
Jawan Johnson's been out, so yes.
He had 7 receptions against us.
Okay.
He's 7 receptions for 49 yards.
Chance to see that. Okay.
It's because Jawan Johnson's out, and he's out for this game too.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, so it's him and Foster Moreau running at the tight end spot.
And with Taysom Hill, he's also going to come in as quarterback some plays. He's also special teams. He could pick up the ball on a fumble and score it, and he comes in as running back. So I agree with his price point being higher than Ingram just because he has higher upside. But I'm going to have both. I'm going to have exposure to both. I love the the Ingram play this game.
And one other thing I was thinking about was I know that because you guys were up 34-0 against the Patriots, Kendre Miller, even though you have Jamal Williams theoretically coming off IR tomorrow, and he's only 1,800. I think personally, if you're doing any more than 20 max, if you're doing 50 max, you need to have Kendre Miller in your lineups for the simple fact of the matter, he's only 1,800. I mean, he's gonna at what he's costing right now. I think he's that come on because he's a different style of runner. He's more of that Alvin Kamara type runner as opposed to what Jamal Williams. We know Jamal Williams is that ground and pound Mark Ingram style that you guys had for years. And so I think that you have to get some exposure to Kendre Miller if you're going any more than 20 max for sure, just because you need that exposure. But something that I heard Brad say earlier, if you run out a Trevor Lawrence lineup, this might be the freaking game where if you run, now I'm not saying as a captain, run him out. If you run him out there, don't run him out as a captain. But if you run him out there in a lineup, don't be afraid to run that back with the CJ Beathard because it could theoretically work in your favor. Trevor Lawrence comes in, throws one touchdown pass, and he's done in the first quarter. And then CJ Beathard comes in, and CJ Beathard, we've seen this. He has a potential to. He's got sneaky wheels, right? Like he's not a full running quarterback or whatever. But I've seen him, and he was, if I'm not mistaken, he played for San Francisco, and he came out of college out of Iowa, right?Maybe Brad, I think he was Iowa quarterback.
Iowa.
And it was one of those. And they like to move the pocket a little bit. So he's good at.
He's got some wheels. The offense won't change. It's interchangeable between the two quarterbacks. Sometimes, for instance, when you have a Lamar Jackson, but then the quarterback behind them is really more like a pocket passer, a Baker Mayfield, then that's difficult on the offense when you have an offensive scheme built around a running quarterback. In this instance, Trevor Lawrence isn't really a running quarterback per se, so the offense shouldn't change. So from that standpoint, the receiving, everything should basically look the same way. I would just go back though, as well about sort of different play again as far as for Tank Bigsby. ETN actually has, I believe, the number one amount of carries for an NFL or for a running back. in the league overall. And I believe that on a short week like this, that might lend to a either a Dearness Johnson or a Tank Bigsby getting a few more carries than they've gotten in previous weeks because they're being mindful of the workload that they're putting ETN under. So be careful. I guess not necessarily be careful, but if you want to kind of come back around with another running back, that might be beneficial for you tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with the CJ Beathard play, especially if you're doing 150 lineups. I think it would be viable to run him as the captain in a few, 5 to 10 lineups, maybe
If you
run
want
him
to
as
get
the
different.
captain, get different. And if T-Law could go out on the first play, dude. He could go out on the second play. He could do a non-contact injury, dude. The knee is so vulnerable. And if you can't stand or walk or hobble and lean into it to throw, you got to come out. And if he comes out early in that game, I guarantee that the backup quarterback is in the nuts. And if you have him rostered as the captain and he throws a couple touchdowns or runs one in and, throws one, he's going to be the nuts captain. And if you got 5 to 10 lineups of him, there's a good chance, not a 100% chance, but a good chance you seal that number one lineup. I mean, for example, when the Bills played last week in the Showdown, I had 10 lineups. I always choose 2 captains in my 20. I had 10 of Stephon Diggs. He was the nuts captain, and I did not come in first. I had 10 lineups devoted to him and still didn't have the right one. So that's why I say you need to focus your exposure on certain players, and you also need to get different. Beathard is a get different, and you could put some focus on him, not a lot, because it is such a strange and more likely than not going to happen type of thing. But get a few in there if you're doing 150. If you're doing 20 and you're in some 25-cent shit, fuck it, run it. But if you're feeling ballsy, run it. If not, it's probably smart to not do that. You could get, like I said, I think I'm going ETN and Olive for this one. Torn. I think you could definitely get some love to Michael Thomas here. I think he's due for a big game. He's been having 7 to 8 targets a game. Raheed Shaheed, you just saw he was in the nuts. So and he's not out of the question to be in the nuts again, back-to-back weeks. Taysom Hill, my man Jimmy Graham right here, it's going to be super low owned. I mean, I could tell you now, what Graham's ownership in the flex. Actually, people are getting to him 7% in the 600.
Flex. He's 600. It's cheap.
He's 600. So that allows you to stack the rest of your lineup, get him in there and be happy. If he comes down with a touchdown, it's not going to surprise me. Me and Cody seen him numerous times this season on the field, in the red zone, in the end zone, and targeted.
And Carr looks his way.
He's targeted. I think he hasn't connected yet, but he targets him in the end zone.
He has one touchdown. He already has.
There you go.
The Jags defense is also very vulnerable to that sort of second tight end. I believe when the Jags went against Atlanta Falcons a couple weeks back, Jonnu Smith had a fairly good game against them as that sort of number 2 tight end. So again, a get different play with Jimmy Graham would be feasible because Jaguars have been known to give up points to tight ends in the past.
Correct. I agree with that. I don't know too much about these other people like Brenton Strange, Luke Farrell.
Strange, Brad is. I know he scored against us.
He had a touchdown last week. His first touchdown of the year, actually.
Oh, there you go. I mean, he's getting the ball. He's getting looked at.
They're starting to add him into it. That's another one. How much does Brenton Strange run for? Like maybe as much as Jimmy.
1,000. He's 1,000.
1,000.
They see a little bit more. Well, I would actually then take Jimmy a little bit more than Brenton just because I think that was his only catch. Maybe he had another catch.
Just 2 receptions for 27 yards on a TD on 3 targets. Yeah. And then against us, I remember seeing him 2 receptions for 7 yards on 2 targets. So, I mean, his target share is not huge, but I just thought about this. This is Doug Peterson. And what is Doug Peterson's famous for? Running like 3 touchdowns out there. The Philly special, 2 tight ends, Zach Ertz and Trey Burton, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. We have seen stranger things. And no no pun there, but stranger things do happen. So
correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also think that the Saints might actually be one of the top teams against tight ends. So be careful with that. But as we said, if T-Law's playing and he's playing injured, Lattimore's locking down Ridley. He's got no other choice but then to look at his tight end. So do with that what you will. But Saints are looking like they are absolutely solid against tight ends. Might even be the number one defense versus the position. So keep that in mind. I know Cody said, Schultz, he did eat against us last week. I think he was the number one scoring tight end, but that just goes back to what I was just saying. When you have Lattimore locking down the other players, you have no choice but to go to your tight end. So if, Ridley's locked down and Kirk's in coverage, then you have no choice than to go to him, and you got to, feast on that. But I do see that Britton Strange did have 10% target share last week, so he might be another good play to get in. It looks like Luke Farrell does not get targets. He's probably a blocking tight end, so I wouldn't waste it on him.
I'm just saying that Phil's correct on tight ends, but the Saints it's one of those things. We have seen tight ends have touchdowns against them. So we did see Schultz. I just looked at Cade Otton when they played Tampa, had a touchdown against them. I'm just looking to see if Hurst had one when they played. So Hurst had three receptions for 20 yards against you. So I would say that they do a good job of keeping them up front. It's always that red zone when, like Phil's saying, when they have to take Lattimore out. And if Demario Davis is not in there running this and Honey Badger is not playing, I think that would be the susceptibility to those in-breaking, cross-the-middle type, big banging plays. Mm-hmm. And they've been banging you the whole game with ETN and Tank. That play action, and if Beathard is running at the quarterback, I think that tight end lends to himself to being a potential play that is going to be there just for the simple fact of they need to get the ball in the end zone. So if you're beating you the whole way, that play action tight end flat route or little sluggo type route is there. So, and Ingram doesn't always line up as a tight end. He does line up sometimes as a third wide receiver. So,
but if you're looking to be different from the crowd, if everybody's loving Ingram like it sounds like we are, that logic plays sense to fade Ingram if you chose to not play him for any reason. The logic of the Saints being stout against the tight end would make rise to that. It could also bring more hype to that backup tight end because maybe, we're stout against the tight end one, but then you put this other guy on the field and he's the random who gets the touchdown and he breaks the slate. So even though we're locking down the tight end all game to yards and that note, the backup tight end comes in and gets a 1-yard touchdown catch on the one. So keep that in mind.
Who's the number 3 with the fluctuation of Zay not being there? Who would be the number 3 wide receiver?
Tim Jones.
I don't think it boosts him. I think it boosts Kirk and Ridley more than anything in Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a handful of catches going to Tim.
I was just saying for the simple fact of the matter of we considering a tight end
as well. Kirk, Ingram, middle of the field type game. I just again see Lattimore kind of taking that over, crushing that out on the one side, most likely meaning that's going to take Ridley out of the equation. Again, get different with a Kirk, get different with Ingram. I mean, I even say kind of go back with Rashid, go back with Olave.
It might even be Agnew as well that comes in for Jones.
Look, for Agnew broke a pretty good size punt return last week. He's usually really good at that. So if you're kind of looking for that, plus he's also a receiving option. Even though I don't think that's his best skill set, they do try to scheme up plays to get him the ball. So that could be someone to look at for tomorrow as well.
Correct. Cool. So, keep that in mind if you're looking to get different and get some exposure. You're going to have some of these punt plays. It's all a matter of who you want to look at. Agnew, Jimmy Graham, Brenton Strange. You're going to have one to win, as we just seen from that Millie Maker lineup. I think that, might cap that game. If y'all have questions regarding anything about that game, ownership or anything, ask them in the Discord. We're in there. We'll answer questions.
Tell Facebook. Facebook is in the linked.
Also follow that T-Law injury, man. It's a major one to follow, and follow Jamal Williams. If he's out, that boosts Ingram. So and it might even boost Kendre Miller.
Yeah, so we do have a special guest coming up to run us through some sports bets for Saturday's UFC fight card. Speaking of Saturday, we're going to have a little bit shorter of an episode on Saturday. I'm actually going out of town, so I'm going to be doing it on the fly. So it's going to be a little bit shorter than normal. So if you guys watch this and there's games that you want us to target, you guys have thoughts about games you want to know, players you might want to get in, you can add the questions into the comments here. Join us on the Facebook, ask the questions there. Just because Saturday's show is going to be a little bit long, a little bit shorter, actually probably quite a bit shorter than what it normally is. So with that being said, I want to bring on Medici Kyle here, aka Medici. Medici.
He goes by Medici. He's a UFC sports betting guru. Welcome,
What's
Medici.
up, guys?
What's up, man?
Good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, cool. Nice. I just want to say thanks, guys, first of all, for even having me on. I mean, you guys shoot a lot of value, so happy to be a part of that. And
thank you.
It feels cool. I also watch you guys. So,
no problem.
You guys psyched for the fights?
Yes. I think Cody didn't even know about the fight card. I had to tell it to him. So
yeah,
I think a lot of people
usually I'm paying attention, but this week my mind is not on anything. Taking my kid to Disney,
for
so
sure.
I have no idea what's going on this week.
Sure, dude.
So I guess run down who's fighting. I know me and you spoke earlier about it, but that is two definitely insane fights that I am definitely going to be watching. You couldn't ask for a better fight than that, and that's why I like UFC more than boxing, because in boxing they let you pick your opponent when you want to fight them, and UFC's like, oh, you think you're the best? Well, you have to fight this guy because he's earned it and he thinks he's the best. So they keep the competition coming. They make the fights exciting. They don't sell you bullshit. So happy to have you on here.
We know that boxing's trash because Showtime's leaving it after 40 years. So yeah,
I know, dude. They said the numbers have been slowly trending down, and I mean, Dana did it, dude. He got it in there, and he did his thing for sure.
Correct.
Like as far as the market, but the payouts are a lot different, and I think that'll be one downside to UFC for a while now until it gets to popular a little more. But yeah, guys, honestly, you got Islam and Volk, so obviously, everybody hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so
yes.
There's a few things you got to take into account to this fight in general. So Volk is a dog. Like, he's going into this, he's going in looking heavy. He going and taking the fight late, and he's coming off of surgery, right? So Islam already had a good take on this regardless. But you got to remember, the last time Islam and Volk fought, Islam wore the damage at the end of that fight, and his team, his management, the coach was disappointed in him. It was probably one of the roughest takes for that dude he's ever taken in a fight. And Volk, in my opinion, that's probably hands down, besides John Bones Jones, Volk is probably my favorite fighter.
is a beast.
He is. He's a freak.
Has he lost?
No,
I don't even think he's lost.
Volkanovski's.
He's 20. Well, you gotta understand, he took it really shitty last time when they came in, and it was a unanimous decision at the end of his last fight.
Okay.
So right now, as it sits, I mean, you have Islam. I personally think this fight, Volk has to finish it before the third round. And Islam is totally cool if this thing runs its course all the way to the end. But I give the edge to Islam. And going through this one more time, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. This is gambling. You got to always remember, we don't back it. This is your money. You do with it as you please. But we can give edges and try to help you guys out a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's gambling. All right? We offer value when we can.
Correct. What's Islam's line coming in at?
Islam right now is at minus 275. So obviously he's the favorite.
He's the favorite to win, and that's your edge. You're leaning towards Islam in this fight.
100%. And you know what, though? I think it goes the distance. I think Islam takes in the end, and I still think Islam wears the same damage again. I think Volk knows he has to come in here to finish this in 3 rounds. If he goes past 3 rounds, Islam is hands down going to walk this through. And Islam is going to maul him the same way Khabib's team and all that. Their style, they get on you, they wear you down, they maul you. Alexander Volkanovski, he's coming back pissed how the last one went off, and he's going to try to finish this in 3 rounds. And he's openly stated he has to do that. He knows that going in. So I think it's Islam. I think it's in the distance. I think it's going to be a straight dog match, though. All right. So the next one, we are going to jump down to Usman and Kaz. What do you guys think on that one?
That's Chimaev, right?
So you remember the meme where he got knocked out by Leon Edwards' leg kick when he's like this?
Yeah.
That's Usman that took that. And I still don't think he's recovered from that, dude.
He's fighting Chimaev, though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kaz Chimaev, yep.
Isn't Usman fighting on short notice or no?
Usman is fighting on short notice.
Okay.
Yep. So him and Volk took these fights short notice.
But then Volk had a cut like 25 pounds or something like that, right? Like what it was, something like.
He came in heavy.
He did come in heavy. That's the thing. He's coming off of surgery, and he's coming in heavy, and he's coming in short notice, and he didn't get the last one. So he's coming in with something to prove. But I will say Islam wore the damage on that fight. I mean, that was a crazy fight toward the end. Volk's a dog.
What's the line in the Usman fight?
Usman, it is Chimaev's favored. I think it's minus 200. I'm checking again right now.
I'm looking on ESPN right now, and it's just saying minus 340 for Chimaev, and then Usman plus 265. So that, but like Phil says, every place is different.
Everywhere. Oh yeah. They're definitely going to be different everywhere when it comes to fight lines.
I mean, Kamaru's coming off of two straight back-to-back losses, title fight losses to Edwards.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I got minus 320 now on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got minus 340.
But
he's a heavy favorite.
Usman again after Edwards, dude. I think that dude is slow rolling his way out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I like Usman too. I think he's different, but it's
like the three. I know it's like they talk about the African Kings that were going on at the same time. Izzy, Kamaru, and Francis. I feel like those dudes are phasing out of UFC. I feel like they had their reign at the top of UFC, just like we've seen guys in the past, and now it's kind of like, all right, we're seeing a whole new leaf turn around in UFC, and I feel like those dudes are phasing their way out, like you're saying. Like, and I feel like Kamaru's just not he's not the top dog in that division anymore that he was when he was beating up on Colby Covington and stuff.
New reign of champs coming in for sure. Is your edge Chimaev?
Yeah, it's Chimaev under 3 rounds. Under 3 rounds. I don't think Usman, something happened to that guy after that leg kick, and we haven't seen the same guy. And that comes true anytime in real life. When you get, and I've won some and I've lost some, so everybody knows who's a true fighter who's been in that knows. When you take a crazy knockout where lights are out, you don't come back the same after that. Because you're thinking, you know what I'm saying?
In your head.
Thinking. Yeah, it is. And that dude, he was gone when he hit the canvas. And I don't feel like we've seen the same Usman since that.
I agree, actually, with that.
I agree with that as well.
So, I go Chimaev, and I go under 3 rounds.
I like that.
And
I have it at under 2.5 is minus 175. So It's definitely a heavy favorite to be under 3 rounds as well. They're expecting this to be another TKO KO type of ordeal going on in this fight.
Mm-hmm. And then, honestly, guys, my last one I'm just going to throw at you guys is it's the Magomed and the Johnny Walker. And I think I'm going to surprise you guys on this one.
Who are they? Is that nicknames or is that their actual
No,
name?
Johnny Walker and Magomed.
I was about to say there's a guy named Johnny Walker on this fight card.
Is it Tim Elliott?
Wait, what'd you say?
Is Johnny Walker Tim Elliott?
No, Johnny Walker is actually a Brazilian fighter named Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
I don't see him on my fight card.
He's the third one in.
Oh, I do. I see it at the bottom. Okay, I see it. Johnny Walker and Magomed Ankalaev.
This is one of the ones where you just kind of got to say, I don't understand it, but I'm going with you. It's the super big favorite. I mean, Magomed is a beast. He's coming off. I mean, it's in his home territory down there. Johnny Walker, I expect to take this under 3 rounds.
You got Johnny Walker winning?
Johnny Walker underdog under 3 rounds.
He is definitely a big underdog.
Yep.
Oh.
No, didn't Ankalaev Magomed, didn't he just go to a draw with Jan Blachowicz for a title fight against Blon Blachowicz? Because his name's super familiar. I swear he did. Like,
1 second here.
Yeah, I'm just looking. His last fight was a draw against a title fight against Jan Blachowicz. So
who did that?
Magomed, the Russian.
Oh, he's a big favorite in this fight. I have him at minus 362. So
yeah, he is.
That's a big sleeper pick there with Johnny Walker.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can get some good ownership, differences on DraftKings for fantasy purposes by rostering somebody like him, and it wouldn't be the first time.
Magomed hasn't fought in over a year. He hasn't fought in over a year, and Johnny Walker has already had 2 fights this year. So,
and you got it under 3 rounds as well. You got him winning in under 3. So you don't think this
Johnny Walker under 3 rounds? No.
This is gonna be a knockout type fight.
All right.
Yeah. Cool, guys. And I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you hopping on, spreading the knowledge and sports bets.
Appreciate it.
Each time, there's a big fight like this or something, if you want to come on and share the love and let people know your edge that you're taking on these fights, we'd be glad to have you.
And don't forget, these fights, they're early. So we all expect our fights to happen at night. These are in Abu Dhabi. So they're going to be in the morning on Saturday, 9, 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock running the main card. 9 o'clock starting the prelims, I believe. So just know that again, too.
Perfect.
It's a weird time to have these fights. But
yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for your intake, bro, and glad to have you.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of good fights in this, dude. Said Nurmagomedov is fighting in here. I probably butchered the shit out of his name.
I mean, I can just see like we always go to, we do fantasy here, so this is for fantasy purposes. Hella single entry potential in these fights here. Like just with his insight that he just gave on the betting side, the single entry here, and then I mean,
I'm definitely gonna go ahead and throw those 3 in, just set it and forget it. I'm gonna
hit it
for sure. I'm already looking into that, and then go ahead and book those up and see what happens. Saturday. So.
Yeah,
I definitely appreciate that wisdom. That feedback.
Yeah, man, he's a guy with proven numbers of over 100K in sports betting winnings. The UFC is his bread and butter. So do with that what you will. Doesn't mean he's gonna win this week. Doesn't mean you're gonna win this week. Just ride with the knowledge if you want, and if not, hold on to it and watch and see what happens, and see if you missed out on an opportunity or you saved on an opportunity.
Yeah, we wanna kind of broaden the horizons a little bit and give you guys a little more exposure to other stuff that we kind of do on the side and have fun with, and if other people have thoughts and stuff that they want to come on here and present. I mean, I know for a fact that we have a friend for sure. Brad and I have a friend that's in our PPR leagues that does prize picks, and he's cracking them, He's cracking them on these. That whole Ravens game that we gave him advice on Zeke last week, he's cracking them on those prize picks. I mean, that's what he's doing. Like he's using prize picks money that he wins in the morning, especially in these early games. He's going in those London games in the morning, cracking them on prize picks, and then turn around and putting them in his DraftKings pot for the afternoon for the main slate. Great. So
that's great.
Yeah. If you guys got stuff you want to check out, want to learn more about, you have thoughts, please let us know. Drop them in the comments, put them in the Facebook, like we say. And so anybody's got questions, please let us know.
Put them in the chat, put them on the Facebook. We'll be there to answer them.
Anyway, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's anything like you guys want to see or hear, please let us know, because we're here for the people, and that's what we want to do, is spread the love and spread the wealth of knowledge, because if you guys win, that means we win, and that's all we want to do. We want everybody to win.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all. Good luck. Best of luck on this Saints and Jags game. May the best of you win. And good luck on these UFC fights if you follow them.
Yes, and like I said, we will have a shorter, more succinct episode on Saturday than what we normally do. So we'll probably hit our little bit more injury update that's strictly according to what things you need to get locked in for your lineups for season long, because we'll know more about like the Christian McCaffreys of the world.
We'll probably only talk about games we're going to focus, because it needs to be a
the top three most likely.
We're not going to talk about every game. If you have questions, we'll answer them in free time or in chat or in the Discord. The Facebook. But for purposes of that stream, we'll focus the games that we think are the main focus for DFS purposes.
Yeah, and then like I said, the ones that are just like things we know at that point. Like I said, like we'll know more about the Christian McCaffrey's injury at that point, because he's probably the most important thing for season-long people that are really involved at this point, rather if you need to start trying to look to wheel and deal him at that point. So, yes, please, if you have questions, please have them ready to go, and we will handle them at that point. So, with that being said, we guys will catch you on Saturday, and thanks for joining.
Peace.
Peace.